right, guys. Good day to all. Happy Wednesday, September 5th. We're midday. Did a little polling this morning to come up with what we're going to review here. So I have two charts to show you. So we haven't looked at Bitcoin in a couple of days. We're finally getting some action here. So I thought we'd give this a quick review. So I'm going to get into this in a second. But before we do that, I wanted to share something with you guys. Just a little praise to couple of our students. So every month we run what we call the Top Devil competition, and this is something that we do where members are required to submit their trades with proof that they're not just doing this, after the fact. So we want to see proof of the trade, both opening and closing, right? So it's legit. So we let members submit that, and then at the end of the month, we tally up the winner. So you can see here, Percival was our winner at 34.36. Now, this is an unleveraged trading account. This is their Discord handles. Cash number 2 at 19.9. Crypto Z with 11.7. So pretty impressive results for a month. 34% in a month. Good for you, Percival. So congrats there. Just keep in mind, these are not, seasoned veterans. These are all students that came in, applied what we're teaching them, and pretty impressive results. So I thought I would just share that and give a shout out to these three guys who are really taking what they've learned, applying it, and seeing really impressive success. So congrats to those guys. All right, with that said, let's get back over to Bitcoin. So kind of interesting here. Now, this is it's a constant process of trying to find a count here that fits on Bitcoin. So here's my most recent count. I've got a 30-minute here, Bitcoin to the dollar on Bitstamp. So kind of interesting, right? So so we had some negative news today. Is that what's causing it? Maybe, could be. Goldman Sachs news, maybe. A couple of things to consider here. So this note here, this failure to make the median line. So here was our golden corner pocket we hit. So it was perfect to the median line. Now the fact that we can't get there and have sold off, sign of weakness here. Potentially now that we couldn't get this one last push to get up to the median line. Now, additionally, what's kind of interesting here is, so if we pull from the swing high to swing low, we're shy of the 618. You got to check all the pivots here. So this, if we were trying to stay with a count here, playing this as an A, B, and then this being the C, and it's very difficult to get a clean count on this, at least with the data we have so far. It may eventually be more obvious to us as we get more data. But interestingly, if we pull off of this little shelf here, this triple top here, we go right to golden zone. All right, so here was the reaction at the 50. Here's the reaction at the golden zone. Is that what their algos are using? It's hard to know, right? So guaranteed one of them is trading here, right? So did they defend it, start selling here? This could have been the front. It's hard to know, right? So right now, since this is so technical, I'm leaning into this given the move we've had from the golden zone here. So why does that matter? Well, it's going to affect targets down here. So this is leaving us potentially this target way down here at 5,300. So we can't ignore that. So right. So let's look at the count. So coming off of this low. So the most recent count that I'm working with has this coming as an ABC. Now, given this reaction, I lean into that a bit more. Now, it's technical, right? So here, we'd be trading this as an A. With this WXY, you can call this, because we've got a couple of ABCs in here, or you could just think of it as ABC. It doesn't really matter too much. This is a significant pivot down here. So it looks like we have a contender here to go A, B, and then to have gone 1, granted very deep 2, but we stay internal. So I get a 1, 2, 3 right to the median line, 4. Now, note this requires that we end in a 3 wave, which makes this a little messy because we now have a diagonal, right? As we've overlapped the 1 here. So if this is trading as A, B with an ending diagonal, it's there. It's there. Now it gets tough here in this last leg of this. All right, so let me zoom this out. No significant retracement. So so where's your B? So is it 1? Likely, let's just measure, right? So rather than guess, so here's the deepest retracement we have before we go up. That's golden zone to target. Ultimately gets the 4th target. So it makes you think you'd want A, B. Boy, it's hard to. the symmetry is not great here. If that's not your B, then you've got to use something else here. There's nothing else that even gets to a 38. We have no other 38. So it's makes it a little bit of a educated guess here as to what we're coming out of this with. I guess I'd be inclined, it says we kind of really need to, I'd be inclined to go I don't love it, A, B, C, something like that. We got to get that down to something that's not so ridiculous. Okay, let's look at that as possibly, so you'd be A, B, C, A, B, A, B. Boy, there's nothing that's great. Finish with an A, B, C. It's hard to dig a clean count out of there. Now, does it matter now as we sit here as to whether we've got A, B, then a long C? I don't know that it matters just yet, because we're operating on the premise that we have the fifth of the C wave in here. There's not much else I can work with here, as we have no other retracement to really play with as a candidate for our B. So is it here? A, B, C? Maybe. Hard to know, right? So you just take an educated guess and think, okay, well, I've got some sort of significant pivot here. So coming off of this sure looks like I could have an A wave just going in here. So let's zoom back out and think about where we could be going. So if operating on the assumption now that we have this complete, so we have an ABC, well, of course, we've got to consider, just Elliott aside, we've got to pull swing low to swing high. Get that right there. So what have we done? 38 to the tick. A wave, maybe we're just doing some sort of maybe it's one, maybe, we don't know. All right, there's other ways to count this. We could come back here and count this as a 1, 2, 3. Well, no, we can't count that as a 3, pardon me. I take that back, because we have a diagonal, so we can't have 1, 2, 3. So the bull count is getting a little tougher to work into. We could have 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, there's just no easy count here. So, and then the alternate is that we're done and that we're going 1, 2. So let's consider the more bearish outlook would be 1, 2 going in, 3, 4, and 5, all still to come. All implying much lower prices here and taking out this low. So can't be too definitive about that until we see what happens here. So look, we've got this pretty strong structural support. So just going swing low to swing high, coming in here at the 50, I would be very surprised if we don't see a reaction here. Just pulling swing low to swing high, I promise you there'll be an algorithm start buying there. Right? Not hard to figure that out. So it doesn't mean we can't get through it, but we can anticipate a reaction there. So are we coming down in a one wave? We won't call that yet. So until we see the reaction here. So then you look at it and say, well, if this is completed and we do this, well, what does that tell us? Then we're scratching our heads back into trying to figure out what the count is. Right now, if we come down here and do something like this, and then we start heading back down, well, then now we get more clarity. But right now, you have to really watch and see what kind of reaction we get here. If we get there, right? First thing is we don't know if we get there. So maybe this has to be relabeled as some sort of a giant ABC, and we're just in the third. So possibly all of this goes off. This all moves over. This could be our third here, and this is just one giant ABC into a third. Would that make sense? Would that, in terms of the swing ratios, play? Well, you got to look at it two different ways. So first you got to look at what internal to that count, what would be that 1, 2. So if we pull this over, so we're right into that hot spot, right? So most common range for our third, but we'd still, because we'd have to be calling this an ABC, we're still playing for a diagonal. We do get the overlap. So if this is going to push up yet again off of this, regardless of whatever our pivot is here, note we come right to this little low volume node. If we've got another push up here, then we got to rethink it yet again. Still could be a C wave. Still could be corrective. So we'd have A, B, and we're getting more, another leg in the C of the ABC. Possible, right? So am I suggesting being a buyer here? Nope, not ready to do that yet, right? So for me, it's not a matter a fresh trade. It's a matter of whether or not that makes sense to be adding there. I don't think we have enough clarity yet. If you're long Bitcoin, to be looking to add there, it's probably a tradable event. If you're just looking for a new trade, it's not what I would take, because I don't know where we are yet here. I don't know. So we have this little overlap here, as we talked about, possibly a truncated. This could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just too many ways to count this. So without that certainty, why force a trade unless you're just you're dying for the trade, right? So you can always you can always get the rush of a trade here, but why, right? So why force something there until you have more clarity here? It's just way too many different ways this can go. But you got to defer back to what's the dominant thing that we can be clear about, right? So we've, as I've shown many times, we've repeatedly done 618s. We've gone golden zone. So the fact that we don't get it here, potentially is a sign of weakness. And then yet again, right, we have this where we do get, right? So that would be 4 gold. That would be 4. If I go back to, if we look at that double tack, we had a 50, then we had 2 back-to-back golden zones, but they were off of dominant pivots, not a secondary pivot. So it's just too unclear. Why force a trade here? This just could go too many different ways. Now, if we go up again, one more 5 here, then we get more certainty, more clarity. But right now, we still. So when will you get bullish? Well, I'll get bullish again when we break this 65. All right, until we do that, it's bear's ball. They're in control. Right, we don't have a change of trend until we break this 65. Then we just tee it up for the first 50 to come back. So. Again, why force something here? We need more data before we can put on a high probability trade. Right now, again, Vegas is fun too. Right? You can roll the dice there. I wouldn't. Right? That's simple as that. Take that for what it's worth. So as we sit here, it does. So that's not insignificant that we've pushed off that far. Now that this could be just that it's news driven. So we got to see how the market responds to it. So look here, we just come back to this, you could kind of draw it here. It's kind of a big shelf here of prior resistance becomes support, potentially now becomes support again. We got to see, now we're getting a little bounce off of that. So what the other possibility here, so let's pull some of this off, clear up the chart since we've looked at that enough times. What else could be going on here? Well, are we pulling, is it one of these pivots? Are we pulling from this pivot into our C? Well, now we've gone just right to the 50. Right, so then again, so you go look at, well, if this is 1, 2, 3, well, that doesn't play as well. Now I've got a diagonal, so I'm going to go from the start of the 1 to the pivot of the 3. Now I'm right to a 50, and look at that bounce. So it's right. Remember, an algo doesn't care about the Elliott count. So whether we're using this one or this one, we're just trying to figure out what they used. We don't know what we do. We can be definitive that there will be one here. Just dominant swing to dominant swing, that we know an algo will kick in there. Okay, now, as I would remind you many times, that doesn't mean we're going there for sure. Just means that the software starts buying there, and we'll defend it here, and we'll flip there. Right? That's again not flipping short, but just they'll take the next 50 on the swing back up. So knowing that that's there, and the fact that we've just had a little reaction there off of the potential. Let's see if I can get that again. Off of this pivot. Right, is that enough for a new trade to take it off of this pivot? Well, you're rolling the dice that you've got the right pivot in terms of what the algo's used. Well, you've got some evidence here, right? So we've got low volume node, right? So one of two things happen there. Either it's rejected quickly or it cuts right through it. One or the other. So it's something to pay attention to. The fact that we come there and pivot a couple of ticks in front of the 50, not insignificant, but is there enough there for a trade? Right? So if this is let's think bullish, right? So if this is an A wave, right, we could still very easily do that. Nothing says we couldn't do that. Here's my 2 down here. So I still have a potentially valid third here with an ABC to the 618. Right, so I just come to it and say, why force a trade until we get more data? Is this a 1 wave? Is this an A wave? How do we know? We're not going to know until we see what happens here. So you draw it up from pivot. Right? If we don't know if that's our pivot here, are we going to come up here and pivot again at the golden zone, come back down? So look at that setup. If that's the low, look where our target is, right? So this potentially all moves down. Right, now we're more in sync. Let's go back here. Right, now we're more in sync with the larger 50, where we can be certain that software will kick in. Right, we know they're going to buy there. That doesn't mean it. I remind you, it doesn't mean it holds there. It's just we can expect a reaction there. So we get this combination. Right now, we don't know that we have a pivot. Don't know that I have a pivot yet. Don't know that I'm going to pivot here. This could go straight up here. Don't know, but that's what's setting up. So if you're thinking with your Elliott hat on, well, what's basic Elliott 101? We trend in 5s, we correct in 3s. Do we have a correction in 3s here yet? Nope. Nope. Does an algo care? Nope. Doesn't care whether we do it in 3s. Does not care. So we're getting more information, right? So we've been, all weekend we just went sideways, a little bit of a bias to get higher here, but perhaps all we're doing is just completing that third. It's ugly. This ABC here, very ugly to dig a clean 3-wave out of it. So it's a bit of an educated guess as to where the B is, right? Shit, could be down here. So when you're that unsure, why force it? No, just no need to. Right? Just right. Plenty of trades will be available. Don't force a trade if you can't just come to it and go, I feel good about this. I'm confident in this pivot. I know exactly where we are in the count. I know what the algos did last. I know what the geometry looks like. Otherwise, again, Vegas is more fun. And you get free drinks, right? So don't force anything there. So let's let so I'll probably be back for revisiting Bitcoin on Friday. I know my partner Tyke is going to do a video on Friday. So we'll get some more information here. This is just too iffy for me to take a trade there. But at least we've got some contenders of what we've got happening in the count coming off of this low. Right, we're going to get the clarity. It just requires a little more patience, right? So you don't have to be in the market all the time. If you're not sure, get out. No, or if you're holding, just this. All right. Depending on where you're long from, there's no need to panic. Just just another swing, right? That's really just another swing. Okay, what does it tell us? All right, that's probably 17 minutes of rambling here that. Probably clear us up here. All right, so with that done, we'll wait for more clarity here. As always, just a reminder, if you're interested in any of the things we do, the Top Devils competition, we've got our members Discord, we've got a public Discord that's free. If you want to come in and join that, you can do that, kind of get a feel for what we're offering. You can always learn more about what we're offering over on our website or just following us on Twitter. All right, guys? All right, back to you later. I've got one more to do today.